This question reflects a growing concern among Canadians who see rising grocery bills and suspect that hidden green fees might be quietly inflating costs. But is that really the case? Let's look at the facts and separate perception from reality. The answer is no. While some minor environmental-related costs do exist, the data clearly show that Canada's rising grocery prices are not primarily driven by hidden environmental fees. Studies and financial analyses confirm that inflation in food prices is overwhelmingly caused by factors such as transportation costs, labor shortages, global supply chain disruptions, and weather-related crop impacts, not stealth environmental charges. According to the Bank of Canada, grocery price inflation is mainly driven by energy and transportation costs, labor and wage increases, exchange rate fluctuations, and weather impacts on harvests. Additional pressures come from global events like supply chain disruptions and commodity price spikes in grains, fertilizer, and animal feed. These economic realities, not hidden environmental fees, explain most of the rise Canadians see at the checkout. When people talk about environmental fees, they usually mean things like carbon taxes, cap and trade, or regulatory compliance costs passed down the supply chain. But academic evidence shows that these account for a very small share of grocery inflation in Canada. In fact, one nationwide study found that carbon pricing had no measurable effect on food price inflation. If anything, the relationship was slightly deflationary. While climate-related factors like droughts and floods can indirectly raise costs, there's no credible evidence of a large, hidden, green surcharge buried in grocery bills. This narrative oversimplifies a complex economic picture. It implies there's a secret cost added by government policy, but in reality, the biggest price pressures are public, measurable, and widely reported. Grocery inflation comes from multiple layers: farm inputs, transport, logistics, processing, and retailer margins. Environmental policies, where they apply, are a tiny slice of those layers. Calling them hidden misleads consumers and distracts from the real issues like energy volatility, corporate concentration, and global commodity shocks. This doesn't mean environmental policy has zero impact. Future measures, such as stricter fertilizer limits or emission standards, could play a larger role in costs. But so far, the data show that environmental fees are not what's driving food inflation in Canada. Some costs like packaging changes or sustainability labeling may be perceived as green fees, yet they're usually offset by efficiency gains elsewhere in the supply chain. The broader problem remains a highly concentrated grocery sector, global supply pressures, and volatile input prices. In summary, Canada's grocery inflation is real and deeply felt, but it's being driven by global economics, not hidden environmental fees. Transportation, energy, labor, and weather account for the vast majority of cost increases. Environmental regulations have so far had a minimal impact on grocery bills. So, is it true that soaring grocery prices in Canada are being quietly driven by hidden environmental fees? No. The evidence shows grocery prices are rising for economic reasons, not secret, green surcharges. Canadians deserve transparency and facts, not fear-driven narratives about invisible fees. Understanding this distinction matters, because if we misdiagnose the problem, we'll pursue the wrong solutions. The Bank of Canada contributed verified economic data identifying the real inflation drivers: energy, labor, and transportation. Canadian Food Focus provided insights into consumer-facing trends and grocery market dynamics. Forbes Canada offered context on household affordability and food inflation metrics. SU 2024 supplied peer-reviewed academic evidence showing no inflationary link between carbon pricing and grocery costs. Together, these sources confirm that environmental fees are not the culprit, and that the true story is one of global supply and cost pressures. Viewers can pause here to review the full citations.